this is Chapter 1, Lesson 2, Complex Fractions and Unit Rates. If you had to guess what the word complex meant, what would you say? Dozy. Complicated, okay? I'm not going to lie, today is a little complicated, okay? You're going to thank me that this was the third day of school, all right? But let's talk about this unit rate first, because this is our bell ringer today. And you know what? I didn't want it to be just any made-up bell ringer. So I actually looked up the record for hot dog eating contest. And the guy actually ate 72 hot dogs, but I couldn't find about how many minutes it was. I could not find. I looked and looked. Yeah, it has a bump. Yep, seriously. I looked it up, and I could not find how many minutes they do it. So I just made up 10, and it's got to be close to this. It is 10 minutes? Oh, there we go. Yeah, they dip it in the water. That sounds disgusting. But anyway, if I had to figure this out, how many hot dogs did this guy eat in 10 minutes? How many? How many did he eat in 1 minute? How many did this guy eat in 1 minute? 7.2 hot dogs in 1 minute. Ugh. Yes, that's disgusting. And you know what? The guy, this is how many the guy ate. The girl ate like 41. She was the top. The lady ate 41 hot dogs. That's even a lot. That's a hot dog every 15 seconds if you're a woman. Ew! Oh, anyway, I just thought I'd throw out that little tidbit of information. Not that much. This guy must really like him. Me too. All right, so let's talk about some things. So we're going to need to know about this information before we get to today. So first of all, what's fraction again? Because we're going to go back to talk about fractions just for today. Yep, Henry? Portion of a whole number. Okay, can I have mixed fractions? What's a mixed fraction again? Cadence? Sure, what's an improper fraction again? Counter. Bigger than, yep, very good. How do you multiply fractions? How do you multiply fractions? We did this just recently, people. How do you multiply them? Josie, do you remember? Right, so if I have this times 1/6, it would be 1/24, right? I'm just going to multiply across. Very good. What about dividing fractions? What do you got to know about dividing fractions, Zane? Fraction. Correct? Very good. Very good. That reciprocal word. Yes. It's kind of like keep, change, only you're not dealing with really like negative or positive signs. You're dealing with the actual multiplication sign and then changing that reciprocal. You have to know how to do this stuff today. All right? So, complex fraction. Here's a vocab word. I told you it was complex. You don't need to get it yet. Just relax. First of all, vocabulary word. Complex fraction. Write it down and then I'll explain it to you. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. So this definition is kind of confusing. So like, what does it mean? You know what it means in terms of 7th grade? It means having a fraction in a fraction. That's all it means. Okay? Fraction in a fraction. That's all. So this is how a complex fraction is going to look. This is one way a complex fraction can look. There's multiple ways. There's probably 3 other ways a complex fraction can look. Okay, this is just one. Now let me explain it to you. I want you to write this on your paper, but I want you to make this line a little longer than this line. Does that make sense? You're going to need to know that. You're going to want to make sure you have that. Okay, and then we'll do some labeling on it. So this top one is actually the numerator in your fraction. And this bottom one is the what, do you think? Denominator. That's all. So let's say you have a fraction that looks like this. In a normal fraction, we have 2 whole numbers, top and bottom. Okay? But in a complex fraction, you might have a fraction on the top, 1/2 over 4. Does that make sense? You might have a fraction on the top. You might have a fraction on the bottom. It might look like this, 1 3/4. Do you see the difference? Okay? So you're going to have a fraction and a fraction. It's really not that scary. Trust me. Okay? It's really not that scary. Anybody still need this thing yet? So I'm going to show you what you're going to do with it next. Good? Okay. Now what are you going to do with it? This is how you're going to simplify your solve them. And I made some steps for you. Okay? So the first thing you're going to do, and I'll show you, you can write down my steps, and then I'll show you step by step what to do. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, you're going to write it as a division problem. Because remember we talked about how all fractions are just a division problem. Change to a reciprocal and multiply. And I will do this with you step by step. As told you, it was important to take good notes today. Aren't you happy this wasn't the 3rd day of school? You would have hated me. I know. I know. That's why I changed the sections around a little bit. I don't get it either. Yeah, see, this is easier now, because if you would have saw this, I did this the first time I got these books. I just did it in order, and it was horrible. Never again. That's why I have to change things. So write as a division problem, change to reciprocal, and then multiply. So I have 1/4 divided by 2, or 1/4 over 2. Do you see how this one's always longer? That longer line is always the fraction bar. Okay. So what this says is 1/4 divided by 2. So I'm going to do my first one, and I'm going to write this as a division problem. 1/4 divided by 2 over 1. Why did I put 2 over 1? Because it's a whole number. Very good. So that was my first step. Do I need to slow down? I'll wait a few more seconds so you can get caught up with me, then I'll do the second step. So my second step is changing to a reciprocal. So now I'm going to do what I know. You've done this now. You've multiplied and you divided fractions. So now you know the rest. So 1/4 times 1 over 2. And then my third step is I'm going to multiply across. And I get 1/8. Yes, it is. Because you've learned how to multiply and divide already. That's why it's easy. The hardest part is getting it written out. The hardest part is knowing what line up there is the fraction bar. Okay, is it 1 over 4 over 2? No, this is 1/4 over 2. So in your homework, it's going to be kind of difficult to figure out what's the fraction and which bar is which. But we'll talk about it when we get to our homework. Any questions so far? Not as complex as you thought, right? All right, let's do another one. Let's do another one. So what? Yeah, I know. It kind of scares you, doesn't it? So I have 1 over 1/2. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? Jasmine? I'm going to write it out like I normally see it. So 1 over 1 divided by 1 over 2. Does everybody understand why I did 1 over 1? Because that was my whole number. So I got to put a 1 underneath it. And then you probably know what to do after that. So you're going to change it to a multiplication problem. And you're going to multiply. You're going to get 2 over 1, or 2. See, not scary anymore, is it? It's not scary. What? Maybe for the other, I'll let you know how it turns out. I'll let you know how it turns out. Okay. Any questions so far? So far, so good? Do I still need this sheet yet, or this page? Okay, so here is an example of a story problem you might see. Okay? Josiah can jog 1 1/3 miles in 1/4 of an hour. Find his average speed in miles per hour. So, it's a little difficult, I know, but you're going to see something like this in your homework today. Yeah, you can write it down if you want. Maybe that's a smart thing to do. I don't know. It's up to you. Are you guys going to write it? Because if you're going to write it, I'm going to stop talking. I'm not going to do it until you're done. Because I want to make sure you see it. So this is kind of like the one, remember where we had in our story problem the other day? In our, what was it called? Our chapter review, remember that? And we drew a clock, and we did this whole thing, remember? Okay, this is the same type of problem. You could do it this way if you wanted to. And say, okay, this is 1 1/3, this is 1 1/3, this is 1 1/3, this is 1 1/3. But there's an easier way. If I take this number, and I divide by this, because how many sections do I have? 4, so I want to know in fourths, okay? I'm going to get my right answer. So it's really going to look like this. 1 1/3 divided by 1 over 4. Now if I do this, I'm going to get my answer if I would just add them together. Okay, let's say you do that. But I'm going to do it this way, because it's going to turn out the same way. Do you see how this is considered a complex fraction? Why is that considered a complex fraction? Zane. Yeah, there's fractions all over the place in that division problem. So let's write it out like we normally do. 1 1/3 divided by 1/4. But I have to do what with that 1 1/3? I gotta make that to a proper fraction, right? So it'll be 4 over 3 times 4 over 1. And I get 16 over 3. I'm going to get 5 1/3. And I bet if I add these all together, what do you think I'm going to get? 5 1/3. 5 1/3. 5 1/3. So if you have a mixed number, you got to change to an improper fraction, just like you know how to do. And I think you kind of know what to do after that, because we've done this. We just did it. Any questions on this right here? No? Okay, so here's my next part. Complex percents. I know we have not done percents yet, okay? But that's okay. You really don't need to know a whole lot about percents to know how to do this. So this is another thing you're going to have to take some good notes on, okay? Because we're going to talk about complex percents. And we're going to write 33 1/3 as a fraction in the simplest form. I know it already looks like it's a fraction, but it's not. It's still a percent. It's got that 1/3 in there. That doesn't mean it's written as a fraction yet. So there are my steps, and I'll show you exactly step by step of how to do this. First step, write percent over 100. 2, write as a division problem. 3, change to reciprocal. 4, multiply. 5, simplify. You already know how to do half of that because you just did it before. The only different part to percents is this right here. That's the only different part to percents. Otherwise, it's just like a complex fraction. Just what you've been doing. All right, you ready? I'll give you a second. I just have to ask, just to make sure. All right, ready? Okay, first step. What does it tell me to do? Write it over 100. So I'm going to write it over 100. 33 1/3 over 100. Okay? That's the first thing I'm going to do. That's easy, right? Okay. 2, what's 2 tell me to do? Okay, so that's is that the same thing as the last time? Yes, it is. So I'm going to write 33 1/3 divided by 100. And then in this, I'm also going to change to improper fraction. So this is going to be 100 over 3 divided by 100 over 1. Does that make sense? In the same step? Got to change to mixed numbers and all that good stuff and improper fractions. Does everybody understand that part? See how I just changed it? That part didn't? That part didn't? Okay, all I did was I changed it to an improper fraction. 33 times 3 is 99. So I just changed it for myself already. So I'm ready to multiply it. Okay? Okay? Yeah, that's all I did. I just changed it for myself so I can just start doing my problem. Now 3 says change to reciprocal, so I'm going to keep this times 1 over 100. Now here's the deal, 4 and 5, can they go either or first? Because you can simplify first, right, if you want to. Yeah, those can go back and forth. Cadence? Yep, those can go back and forth. 4 and 5, it depends what you like to do. If you like to simplify before you multiply or multiply before you simplify, does not matter. But in this case, I'm going to simplify before I multiply because my 100s can definitely cross out. And then my last step, I'm going to multiply across, and this is my answer. So if you just follow the steps, that's why I put them there for you. Just follow your steps, and you'll be fine. Just follow your steps. We're going to do one more to have a good example in your notebook. Ready for your last example? All right, so write 6 1/4 in the simplest form, or fraction form, okay? So you remember what my first step was? Yep, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna write it over 100. Second step, remember what it was? Yep, we're gonna write it as a division problem. So 6 1/4 divided by 100, and then I'm gonna rewrite it 24, 25 over 4 divided by 100 over 1. Does everybody understand how I get this part? Okay. You don't speak up, so I can help you. 3. Remember what third step was? Change to reciprocal, so we're going to do that. 25 over 4 times 1 over 100. Now here's where 4 and 5 can interchange. Can I reduce this? Oh yeah, what can I reduce by? 25 for sure. Yep. So this goes in 1 time, and this goes in 4 times. And now I can minus step 5, or I can multiply across. So my answer could be 1/16. That is the end. So what do you think? Can you do this by yourself? Can you try it by yourself? Is that all right? All right, let's look at your homework, okay? Let's get out your book and let's take a look at that.